It's Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance at the League of California Cities Annual Convention in Long Beach, California. We are joined today by Christian Horvath. He is a councilman in beautiful Redondo Beach, California. Huge fan of your city. Huge fan.
Thank you. We are too.
Yeah, I enjoy visiting, walking around. But I notice it can get a bit crowded. There are bikes and skateboards and cars and pedestrians, and you're looking into that. Your city's looking to try to smooth everything out.
I think Redondo Beach and the region in general, we're trying to figure out how do you make the city multimodal. How can pedestrians, how can cyclists, how can car owners, how can they all function together and safely? That's the big thing.
And let's talk about your Streets for All campaign.
Sure.
Because there's no doubt we want to all get along. Can't we all just get along?
Yeah.
But, you know, when you think about the beach cities, the streets tend to be a little narrow.
That's in some places.
In some places, not all. And so you're challenged. I mean, this is not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, not easy.
So, you know, the Streets for All campaign actually grew out of my campaigning. And
really?
And, you know, in walking the neighborhoods, you know, and talking to neighbors and going up and down a street, right, you start to see the streets at a very different level than when you're driving.
You do.
And you notice cars speeding. And I live at a corner where people run the stop sign all the time, but what I realized was it was happening everywhere.
Right.
And so I thought, you know, hey, the city can only do so much from an infrastructure standpoint, right? And then we can only do so much from an enforcement standpoint. What we're not doing is we're not figuring out how do we change the mindset, the behavioral aspect of each of our neighbors, right? How do we get into that part? And I think it's the third leg that's missing.
And the great thing about your effort is that if there's ever a city that can change a mindset, it's a beach city.
I think
because
so.
It's pretty compact in the best sense.
Yes.
And there's a real sense of community. And so you can talk to your neighbors in such a way that you can change minds and hearts.
There is. And I think the best part about the beach cities, and that includes Manhattan Beach and Hermosa, is that we have something called the Beach City Health District.
Right, yes, and that's part of this, right?
So what I did was last November, I brought in the health district, the school district, our new police chief, and I said, how do we do something, you know, where we utilize students, we utilize the schools, and we actually communicate to parents, you know, how do we do something?
And what'd you learn?
Well, the health district said, let us go do the research, you know, let's go find out. And so what they did was they cultivated this program over a 10-month period.
Who says government doesn't work? Government can work.
It works, I think, when you really you know, set a goal and a vision for something positive. And so that's what we did. We just recently kicked off the program. We had, you know, over 100 volunteers walking and knocking on doors. And this is what it is, right? It's an educational program. We make people aware. And so coming out of that campaign, right, I'm guilty as anybody else, right, with doing more than 25 in an area. But after that campaign, I'm like, I'm not going to get there any faster. So I'm really super conscious now about, you know, a full stop or driving 25 miles per hour, and really just thinking about that. And you know, getting people to say, hey, I don't need to use my phone when I'm driving, or all these
safety
different
question as well.
All these different things is just a matter of getting into somebody's head and realizing they're a mother, they're a father, they have kids, they have parents, and that all this affects everybody, you know. And you don't really think about it until you see the tragic story. And I want to do something before we get there.
So is the campaign working not only in Redondo, but as well Hermosa and Manhattan?
Yeah, so
it's
it
going
basically
well.
Spread out into all three cities. And like I said, it just recently started, so let's see how it goes. And I think it can just continue to grow and expand.
No question the beach cities pride themselves on livability.
Yeah.
There's also no question that Los Angeles County, not just the beach cities, facing a homeless crisis.
Correct.
One would not expect the beach cities, Redondo Beach, to be facing homelessness, but yet the recent survey, homeless count, 216 homeless in Redondo Beach. What does that number mean? It's hard to know, except when you compare it to the last count, you're up 31%.
Correct.
That's easy, that's palpable. What's going on?
So I clearly, and I'm sure if you did your research right, you know that this is a problem throughout not only the country, but the county has said, you know, in this past year, we're applying, you know, an enormous amount of time and energy into this, and LA City has.
Right.
And so each of the cities, and in
the three?
Actually, each of the cities in, I think, LA County.
The 88.
Right, the 88 of them, but more specifically where we are in the South Bay, we said, hey, we want to do a pilot program. And so the city gave the region a grant to bring in PATH, People Assisting the Homeless. And coincidentally, Redondo Beach was doing that as well. So we have a separate contract with PATH because you're right, our numbers are going up. They're going up because we have so many generous people and so many generous faith-based organizations in Redondo Beach that are, feeding our homeless compatriots. They're giving them, toiletries and things like that.
And the weather's nice.
And the weather's nice. And so people tend to go where they're able to get services. And
I'm glad you brought that up, because homelessness, when you're not homeless, is hard to wrap your head around. On the one hand, we may feel revulsion, but simultaneous feel compassion. Mm-hmm. And we're not really sure how best to manage those emotions and put those emotions to the best use.
Right. I think everybody wants to help, but they might not want to help in that immediate sense out of a sense of fear, maybe.
Right.
Because they don't know if the homeless individual is mentally ill. I will tell you this, we see people all the time, and my kids are awesome. We saw a gentleman right outside City Hall, and we saw him a few times over like a 3-week period. And my son came home and got a Ziploc bag and made him put $20 of his own dollars in there made a whole kit. And the next time we saw him, he ran over, he gave it to the guy, and
How old's your son?
Just about to turn 8.
Fantastic.
So, I think we had established in that 3-week period that he didn't seem dangerous,
but I want to talk about the mentally ill homeless, who may or may not be dangerous.
Correct.
You've launched a program which I can only say is inspiring.
Thank you.
And that is, in conjunction with the County Department of Mental Health, you are placing mental health clinicians in Redondo Beach police officer cars.
Correct.
It's easy to bash police, but God bless them. They are not psychologists.
No, they're not.
We didn't train them to be psychologists. And so to have a mental health clinician in a car, oh my God,
that's
a
correct.
Game changer.
And they have services for mentally ill people that are homeless that we don't. So if they're able to do an evaluation and actually ride along with the cops,
on site,
we are able to make that process move faster. And that's really the hardest element, I think, in addressing homelessness is connecting with the people, making them feel comfortable, like they can trust you, and then being able to move them in the direction where they need to go, whether it's, if they're a veteran, there's better VA services.
And you're working, again, with, is it your federal partners? Yes, your federal partners on a Section 8 housing program, as well as a Veterans Affairs program.
Right, the VASH program.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all in all, do you feel as if the residents of Redondo Beach are amenable to these programs? Are they appreciative of these programs? Are they coming together to make these programs work?
I think, I feel like my biggest job in an elected position is to try to keep educating people about what we're doing, because most people are happy. Right. I don't think they're 100% paying attention, as long as nothing's going wrong.
Right.
And so my community meeting coming up soon is going to focus on homelessness.
Okay.
We'll have the police department, we'll have PATH there.
Right.
The more you engage with the folks and let them know what's going on, the more they are willing to step up.
He is Christian Horvath. He is
sir.
a councilman in the city of Redondo Beach, California. Not far from here.
No.
We're in Long Beach at the League of California Cities annual convention. We're at Pomerance Charter Local Edition.